This is the industrial side. Most industrial businesses are either won or lost in the day-to-day operations. These are conversations with the operators who run these firms, talking about how they run them, what works, and what doesn't. All right, Dan Verboski, owner of Leon Science. How you doing today?
Good morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Today I got a good start, and it's getting just even better talking to you. All right, so we have an exciting topic today. We're going to talk about signs. When you were a little kid, did you dream about one day owning a sign company?
I don't think anybody who's in the sign business ever grew up, unless they were multi-generational, ever grew up and said, I want to be a sign business, whatever, when I grow up. It's just one of those things we don't know exists until we get there and said, oh, wow, this is a whole thing. This is a whole industry.
And so for the listener, you don't make those little signs that say we buy houses that go on the side of the street. You make very, very custom, well-made signs. So talk a little bit more about what kind of signs you make and for who.
Yeah. So our bread and butter, the kind of our lane, if you will, is the custom cool stuff that somebody would sketch on a napkin and say, hey, can you build that? That's what we can do. Program work, we do multi-location rollouts. So if a Bank A is buying Bank B, that's also kind of our lane, coordinating, we need to roll out on a Friday and have everything rebranded by Sunday. That's the kind of thing that we do as well. Now we'll go down and we'll do something as simple as a non-lighted panel or, vehicle graphics, that sort of thing. But our bread and butter, our lane that we think is our best competitive spot is doing the cool custom stuff and the multi-location rollouts.
Got it. So these are signs that people would have seen driving down the street, McDonald's, Wells Fargo, stuff like that. Like the very, the branded stuff.
Primarily electrical lighted signs. So when you go to a restaurant or government agency, church, whatever, you're there because you look up, you see the sign.
Yeah.
That's us.
Awesome. How did you get into this business?
Well, I left the State Department in 2017 and I had my mind to buy a business, and I'd invested in real estate for years. So I thought I'd probably buy a property management business. And then I heard through my network that, hey, there's a sign business for sale in Tyler, Texas. And I said, I don't know anything about signs. I don't know anything about Tyler, Texas. But the broker met with me and said, yeah, just come out and meet with them, and came out, met with them. And it actually was a really legitimate company at the time, 72 years old. We're 80 now.
Wow.
Thanks. As we record this, we're 2 days away from our 80th birthday party, which is going to be a big event we have. We wanted a big 75th birthday party, but it was in the middle of COVID. So yeah, we waited to the 80th.
Understood. No, that's fair. 80 years. I mean, that's a lot of longevity for, I think it's kind of hard to brand, I think, a sign company, because your brand is to brand other companies. It's like, it's a weird thing. What do you think has led to lasting that long?
Well, I think there's the owner and founder. I mean, he owned the business for 50 odd years. He ran a really good business. And I think some of that reputation has just, for lack of a better word, we've just inherited it. I mean, we didn't necessarily do anything to earn it, but it was what our reputation is in the community. We've done our very best to uphold it. But I think, that was part of why we outlasted a lot of competitors. There is some consolidation in this industry. So some of our competitors have gotten bought, rolled up, and effectively disappeared from the market.
Right.
So I think it's a lot of just being here and being consistent, and that's what I've tried to focus on since I've been here.
Yeah. And so how does the sales process work with this? Is it just like a request for a quote type process from these major companies, or how do you get like a new sign job?
So the majority of our work comes in through customers that find us through we're mainly repeat customers. So the course of a year, we looked at our statistics. 87% of our customers last year were customers who had used us before. Whether that's somebody who bought a sign 10 years ago and now wants an update. These are also, we do a fair amount of work for other sign companies and general contractors. So we work with kind of the same group of general contractors, the same group of what we call national sign companies. These are sign companies that produce signs for big national brands like your Walmarts, your Starbucks, your those sort of things. So we get repeat business from them. But then again, our bread and butter is the customer that we already have the relationship with. The account, we would consider an account somebody who's got multiple locations or we've done work for them before. But if somebody just picks up the phone and calls and says, hey, I want a sign, I'm opening a business, then our process is an account manager would typically go out and meet with them, kind of see what the site looks like, hear about the business, and figure out what the best thing that we can propose for that business. I mean, most people who have bought signs know that they're more expensive probably than you think they are.
Yeah.
So we go out and we try to figure out, does this person need and want the $3,000 sign, or do they need or want the $30,000 or even the $300,000 sign? And that's what we try to get to. the design process, the sales process, it takes anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple months to kind of get that really honed in for the customer's expectations. And then from there, it's just a matter of putting it through our manufacturing and install process. But that initial consultation and coordination with the customer to figure out what they want, incorporate their brand into something that comes to life is probably the most extensive and important part of it. Because from there, it's just doing what we always do. We build thousands of these things a year, but getting that design, color, all that right is pretty important up front.
And what kind of expertise do you need on your team to be able to do those specs? Like, are the account managers like mostly salespeople, or do they have some sort of technical orientation?
They are salespeople who have a technical orientation. We can't simply pull somebody off the street and say, here's go sell signs. So they have to know. I mean, there's just 100 little things they have to know. So we put them through training, typically about 6 months. And that's to get basically qualified. That's to get them to the point where they know when to ask a question. But I mean, they've got to know what kind of wall could have what kind of sign, where the sign could go. If somebody wants a sign on a pole in front of their business, well, how far does it have to be from the power lines? Is there any utilities close by? Do you see any flags? That sort of thing. So there's just a whole lot to those things so that the salespeople can sell something that we can actually produce. And then every position, I mean, you've got people or project assistants behind the scenes checking permitting. So don't propose a 100-foot sign if you can only have a 50-foot sign, 50-foot square foot sign. So all those little things that happen behind the scenes. And then when it gets to design, well, the designer has to know how deep does the sign need to be to allow for it to be lighted properly and allow it to slide down on the pole and all these things. So there's a fair bit of technical knowledge that we have to instill in every position just to be successful at it.
Got it. And how big is your team at this point?
We are 26 wow. people.
Yeah. That's awesome. So for your account manager, it's mostly like almost like an inside sales project management type role. Would you say that's fair? Or is there anything you have to do in terms of like attending the trade shows, doing outreach, or anything like that to stay in front of the customer year round?
It's a blessing and a curse to be a specialty trade industry. By and large, I can say that within 100 miles of here, we're the best and most capable sign company. We're not as full into the markets that we need to be in this market, but it does mean that we get a ton of inbound. Because, I mean, there's lots of sign companies out there, but when you really start digging in, that's a banner shop. And these guys don't actually make anything. They buy it from a wholesaler and then try to sell it to you. It's, there's a lot of that. So it is beneficial for us, let's say blessing and a curse that we get a lot of inbound. We are always looking to ramp up and start doing outbound. We occasionally are able to go out and start calling on customers like, hey, we see you pulled a building permit. Can we, do you need a sign? Can we help you with the sign? That sort of thing. It's something we have to work up to because right now we're fully booked with our 26 people. But then expanding the team is hard because everybody basically on our administrative side has started as an assistant, project assistant typically, or administrative assistant, and then moved up into their role. So everybody, including our operations manager, started as a project assistant. And those processes take years. So if I would like to expand the company by say 25%. I want 25% more sales, 25% more revenue, and 25 more people effectively, maybe a little less than that. I still have to develop those people internally. So that's our number one limit to growth. It's how quickly can we get somebody to walk in off the street who didn't grow up saying, I want to be in the sign business.
There's probably two people who did, and they probably live in Katy, Texas, actually. Now that I think about it. No, that's a good model. That makes a lot of sense because I do think that there's some degree of as cross functionality is what I'm hearing. And as you get bigger, you still want to keep the cross functionality. You just want to make the layers maybe continue to go higher so that there's more people running different teams and different manufacturing jobs. That's interesting because I've looked into buying business myself. I spent a long time doing that. And there's this idea that a business has to have outbound for it to be a real business. And I think a lot of that is driven by the desire to have a 5-year, 7-year, 10-year revenue projection that you could pretend that you're controlling. So it's like the idea that, if we make 20 calls a day, that's going to lead to this many meetings, we'll close this many, and now I have control of it. But if you look at, it sounds like you have a long-term orientation, especially a business has been around 80 years. It's actually really a blessing to be able to have everybody come to you, even just basic psychology. I mean, there's more value in them coming to you, and they respect you probably more and are probably more open to the close than if you just randomly reached out to them. So it's an interesting dynamic to look at it from the other side.
Well, and you factor into that too. I mean, so we do track the amount of statistics, and we track our leading indicators. How often are we getting a new customer prospect or customer, call it new sales lead. How often are those coming in? What's our closing percentage on those? So we know, and what's our dollar value that we're proposing, because that is our leading indicator for what are we going to sell. What we do this month is what we're going to sell next month and invoice about 2 months after that. So we watch that pipeline closely, and we can adjust to that. We can go after stuff if we and we have periodically been able to had the bandwidth to go after stuff. But you're right, it is a higher closing ratio generally if they come to us. A, because they probably used us before, or B, if they found us, a lot of times they've known somebody that has used us and say, oh, I'm the new doctor. These other doctor who's with his practice recommended you because y'all did a great job for him. And so that's beneficial to us as well.
And so it sounds like it varies in terms of who the customer actually is. Like the example you just gave, like a medical practice, just like from scratch, the owner's probably doing everything versus like a bank merger, like there might be a site manager or something like that. Do you have like any like insight into like what's like the typical like ideal customer so that one day if you got to the point where you could do outbound, you would even know like where to hit essentially with new company?
Yeah, I mean I think in our industry, everybody wants the institutional and big commercial. Everybody wants the school or the hospital or the bank with 20, 30, 40 branches. But I mean, a lot of our stuff just comes from the one-off. I mean, the church that wants a new sign because they want to grow the congregation. The small business owner who's opening their first business. I mean, that is all in our lane. So it is from a marketing standpoint, and as a business owner, I can tell you it's more effective to focus on the facilities manager of Bank A with 20 branches than it is to go after 50 small business owners and maybe get a 10% callback rate, that sort of thing. But we definitely don't think of ourselves as only, we're a big company, so we only deal with big companies. I mean, we deal with small business owners and one-off locations all the time. So I think that would be when we go into new markets. I mean, chambers of commerce, getting involved in the community. I mean, I think it's a good way to do it. And I think the big stuff, you want the big stuff, but you also want the little stuff because bank rebrandings don't come along every year. I mean, the bank rebrands, well, that might be done for 10 or 20 or 30 years before they rebrand again. So you definitely want to keep all the little one-off customers happy. And we learned that along the way when our competitor effectively stopped doing the one-offs and only wanted program work. All the customers that came streaming in said, I used to only buy a sign every decade or two, but I used to be able to get service and now I can't. And so we welcome them in, and we never want to be so big that we take that for granted that those customers still need served. We want to be the company that serves them in East Texas as a whole.
Yeah. And it's not not to speak for you, but I look at this, a lot of businesses trying to get the bigger customers because they're trying to get like additional follow-on work, and it gives them more visibility in what could happen in the future. But at the same time, the trade-off is you have a smaller customer, the requirements are probably more simple, the sales cycle is probably slow, like not as slow, and so there's a benefits and drawbacks to it. And so I think it is good to have that orientation, especially since this seems to be, correct me if I'm wrong, like your geography is a good like part of your moat here. Like the businesses around you are where you get a lot of your business. Is that right?
Yeah, and we're located in the biggest city in East Texas, which is Tyler. It's a population of 100,000, and there's lots of littler cities in East Texas that we are a part of, that we do business in. Even in Louisiana, we're licensed in Louisiana. We do a little work in Shreveport, Bossier City. But yeah, I mean it's the scale doesn't. We're not a Dallas or a Houston where it's the scale is that there's 20 sign companies. I mean we're at an enviable position in this market, I think, and we do our best to protect that. Call it a moat or call it what you want, but we do our absolute best to serve every customer and help them know that they're important to us, and that I think helps bolster the reputation and keep them from feeling that they need to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And I guess to talk about maybe more of the operations, it sounds like these jobs are pretty custom. So how much lead time do you typically have ahead of a job in terms of time to get the materials and the specs and everything together?
From the time we close a job to the time the salesperson turns in the sold job and says, this is now ready, I've got everything I need, signed proposal, signed art, all that, to we've actually installed the sign. It does depend on permitting. But if it's something simple like a face change, doesn't require a permit, a face change in a city that doesn't require a permit for it could be a few weeks. If it's a big, cool custom sign, 35-foot tall with an electronic message center as part of it, and we got to have a permit, it could be 12 or 16 weeks. So it really just depends. Where we have the thing that we've responded to over the years is our customers are always asking that question. When can I have my sign?
Yeah, right.
So years ago, we said, we're going to figure this out. So now within a few days of actually signing up a sales project or a sign project, we let them know, hey, your proposed install date or your confirmed install date is July 15th. And we hold to that date better than 95% of the time. The few times we don't generally involves supplier issues, which are not absent even now.
Of course. And do you have to like keep inventory on hand in terms of materials, or do you order it as the job is closed?
I mean, we keep enough raw material to keep us stocked when we go to
Yeah.
build the next jobs, but most of our stuff is, I mean, it's sheet aluminum, it's paint, it's
Yeah.
LED. I mean,
Yeah.
we literally take raw materials and turn them into signs.
That's cool. I like to call that real economy businesses, actually creating something that still
Yeah,
exists, folks.
there's something called the sign disease that we talk about with new people when they come in. Is like, okay, once you start noticing signs, you can't not notice them. And then your spouse or whoever is gonna get tired of you driving around town, like, oh, I sold that sign, or hey, we did that sign.
Yeah.
It's just, but all of our work is right out front of everybody's business where it should be, and it's a really neat thing that we get to see that. And the people that work here, I mean, these are especially the people that are building and installing the signs, and they really like working with their hands, and they do their work with pride.
That's awesome. No, I imagine when I go and go down the street for some coffee later today, I'm just going to be looking at signs everywhere.
You won't be able to help yourself.
Yeah, I did an internship in college for like a storage unit developer, a real estate developer. And I like literally have never noticed like a storage unit ever. And then I did that and I see a storage unit everywhere now.
That's what it is.
So the work, it seems like the work is mostly new installs, but like now that I think about it, I do drive by and just see signs that are just in poor condition. Is there any kind of maintenance work that you can get or like maybe plan to start adding in the future? Or is that not really fit the business model?
So we do a pretty good amount of service, and that's
Okay.
where customer says, hey, my sign is out. Most common thing is lighting. Lighting goes out. We install everything we install and build. We put it with a 5-year parts and labor warranty.
Okay.
And our people know what we're putting out in the world. And so about half of our warranty calls come from our own people saying, hey, I drove by this sign. Maybe not half, maybe a third. But there's some percentage of our stuff that comes from our people saying, hey, didn't we just do that sign? I saw that it was out. And then we just call the customer and say, hey, we noticed your sign's out. We're going to come out and fix it because you're in warranty. But yeah, we with our existing accounts, our existing customers, we might reach out and just say, hey, your sign over here looks terrible. You always try to strike the balance between, hey, man, I'm not just trying to shake the tree and get money out of this thing, but your sign's not representing you very well. And can we help you with that? Can we order you a service call? If it's just faded, it needs new faces, that sort of thing, we want to give them a quote for that. That's part of that outbound that we do is we look at signs and then we just walk in and hand them a business card and say, hey, we'd like to help you.
Now, is there a useful life of a sign? Because I'm thinking like, why not just keep maintaining, you say you do the $300,000 sign. Why not just keep maintaining it instead of buying a new one in 10 years? Does it just break down and wear and tear over time?
It's about like a car.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
you can keep them. And matter of fact, one of the things that we do a couple of times a year is we do neon restorations. We've got an old Whataburger sign in our shop now that was all original neon that we're putting together, and we'll reassemble it and sell it or give it back to the customer. But that's an exception, and you can do that. I mean, but after about 10 years, it's just like buying a car. If you paint a car and park it in your yard and leave it there for 10 years, in 10 years you can tell which side's the south side because it's going to be more faded. The LED lasts for, they say it's 100,000 hours. That's 11 years if you leave it burn 24/7. But it does start to fade and dim. The paints, the vinyl. We use a 3M vinyl with 9-year over laminate, which is the best thing you can get on the market. But it's a 9-year over laminate. The north side of that sign is going to look good for probably 15 years. But the south side of that sign is going to expire right as that 8, 9, 10 years as that vinyl comes up. So you need a full refresh after a decade, typically.
Got it. And maybe that's the analog to what we were talking about earlier with like outbound gives you the somewhat predictability. Inbound is sort of dependent on customer need. Are you able to say like, oh, we did this sign right now, like 11 years from now, we should probably have an opportunity to do something else? Or like, do you do forecasting as part of your business, or is it mostly based on the backlog that you've been getting from people calling you?
It's mainly the backlog, but we do have a touch point with our customers at 4 years and about 9 months. Once we do your sign 4 years and 9 months, we call you and say, hey, you got about 3 months left in your warranty. Is anything wrong with your sign? And they say, oh, yeah, there's a letter out. I've been meaning to call you. Great. Well, let's go get it taken care of now. So we do have a touch point there that just before the warranty expires.
Did you look at any other types of businesses when you were in the process of looking for a company? Because I'm wondering if this like characteristic of what you're describing is the sign industry only, or a lot of like the custom trade install type work. Like there's the story you're telling is kind of predictable, and in some ways, like you obviously have to do some things to grow your outbound. If you essentially want to drive higher levels of growth, but I assume you're growing now, just handling the work that comes to you. Have you seen this in other industries?
I've been in other industries. I've never owned a business in another
Yeah.
industry. And I did a podcast a couple years ago on if I can give a shout out to Acquiring
Yep.
Minds.
No
But
doubt.
it's he had asked, after listening to that show, I realized how hard it is to buy business.
Yeah.
And I literally just showed up. I met the owners, and I think 5 or 6 months later, we closed the deal. And I didn't know it was hard. I thought that's
Yeah.
just what you do. It's like buying a car. You show up, you talk to somebody, you make a deal, and get on down the road. And that's not apparently how it works. So I do think there's some things that we could get more sophisticated on, like the forecasting. Right now, and I mean, I would say that we're one of the better sign companies. I mean, I think that's the business I bought. That's the business I've worked very hard to maintain and improve. So I think that we're one of the better sign companies. That said, I think we've got room to get more sophisticated. And as we grow, I mean, we've gone to a 17-person company to a 26-person company. We get above 30, 35. I mean, those are going to take different levels of leadership from me, from the leadership team, that we are going to have to get more sophisticated on. And yeah, forecasting, and we're now moving into other markets deliberately. Those things are skills that we're still honing. So, but
Interesting. No, I was going to ask you about kind of like the way that you see expansion. Like, are you thinking that you would need maybe warehouse space in another state, or how are you thinking about what you would need to do to kind of like grow past beyond the point you're at?
well, the nice thing is about our facility is we're spread across 3 buildings, but it's only on about 2.5 of the 5 acres that we own. So there are plans
There's a
as
lot of
we
space.
grow, we're
Yeah.
going to need more physical space. And I'd like to bring us under one roof because we have literally spread across 3 different buildings. It's more by happenstance than by design. I mean, if I were designing something from scratch, I wouldn't spread us across 3 buildings. So eventually, when we're able to move into that single building, we'll have more fabrication space, more office space, and we'll be able to grow into that next phase of our growth past the 85, 90, 9,500 years.
Mhm.
We've got plans outlined for that. And there's a system called EOS, there's a book called Traction, Gino Wickman. I
Mhm.
read that early when I got into this business. I said, we need to do that. We need to execute on that. We did eventually. We've been on it for about 4 years now, maybe 5. And that's part of that. We got the values defined. We got the 90-day, the 1 year, the 3 year, and the 10-year goals, and all of those things tie in together. And that 10-year goal is the ambitious goal that gets us to needing that larger facility, not just for a vanity project, but because, hey, we outgrew what we have, and now we need this. So yeah, I feel good that we're on pace for that.
Yeah. And speaking of which, you're about a decade in now, as we talked about in our
Man,
kind of pre-call. What are you
time
thinking looking back?
time flies. Time really does. I think there's some tough parts for me.
Yeah.
There's some hard growing pains for me personally as a leader. Definitely some hard growing pains for the company, but we're in good times now. I mean, we're making money. The team's happy. We've got a great culture. We're investing in our people. We've got an excellent track record of promoting and developing people internally, and we're having fun.
Yeah.
We're doing good work. Customers are happy with us. We're active in the community. I mean, I think we're having fun.
Yeah. That's always good to hear. So I
Yeah.
guess on the other side of the coin, I mean, what has been the most difficult part about doing this? Like, I think like I'm imagining you had a head full of hair similar to mine when you bought the company, and now
Yeah, and it wasn't
looks a little
white.
different. Yeah.
It's I'd say that the tough part is just haven't had success as a leader in other industries. I'm a district manager, store manager for Target, and doing things that I tend to see myself as pretty good at leadership. And then this was just different. This was just, I talked about specialty trade as a blessing and a curse. Well, the blessing is you get a lot of inbound because there's not a lot of companies that do what you do. The curse is that your specialty tradespeople, if it's not like other industries, well, if that person's not a culture fit, you don't simply just cut them out and replace them. I mean, if they're a 20-year person, it takes about 20 years to replace them.
Yeah.
So that was the hard thing how do you do a culture change and save as many people as possible through that culture change? And I didn't approach it that way, and I think it was detrimental to us as a business, and it made it harder for me than it needed to be. So I think it was a tough learning, but having where we are now, we've got now several years of people that have worked for me and that I hired. I mean, we're now in a good place. But if I needed to have done that again, I would have looked for a way to do it differently and maybe kept more of people that were on the fence, maybe culturally. See what I would have invested more in. Okay, let's sell them on the culture and try to
Mhm.
save this person, because that's, if I lose them, that's 4, 8, 10, 20 years of experience I lose if they walk out the door. So
Yeah. Now, when you talk about culture and thinking back how you mentioned like EOS was a part of your plan going in, and for those who are familiar with it, EOS makes a lot of sense for those who are kind of like managerial minded. It's like adding a lot of structure and thinking ahead and accountability. But I feel like as a trades worker, like you're trying to escape that world. You're trying to just focus on doing your thing. Is that where the butting heads came in, or was it something different?
well, we're a small industry. I think there's 200,000 people nationwide in our industry, and they're all companies of 5, 10, 20 people. And so there's not a lot of, I mean, some of the stuff I was dealing with was just, the indoor smoking policy, you know, the way you treat people. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't yell at people when you want to get something out of them. I mean, you can't, just all this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
just the best management, the common management techniques of the 1980s were still and are still in the sign industry. I think
Yeah.
they're in full force in a lot of places, because there's not the resources and the structure to invest a lot in education in our industry. Now, I think the International Sign Association is doing a fantastic job in the last few years. We now send people every year to the International Sign Association show, the Sign Expo, to get education, to meet with vendors, to do these things. I think that industry body is now doing a great job of giving some of the education that we need as an industry. But we got a lot of room to make up. And so I think that when people are used to doing things that were done in the 70s or 80s, and you're trying to modernize that and say, hey, this is a new generation of kids we got coming in. This is a new world we live in, and just try to get people comfortable with change. It's hard to get people comfortable with change.
Yeah.
But even if we do it perfect today, the world out there is still changing. So we still have to change. We're going to have to change by next year or the year after that, because we've got to keep up as an employer. We got to keep up as a business. We've got regulation, all this stuff that we have to deal with. So that's been the butting of the heads. And I think if people think we don't want to be seen as, we don't want to be corporate. We want to be, people, but at the same time, we can't be using antiquated management techniques. And I think that was a lot of what I ran into.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I think the last question I'll ask maybe is just as you think about the trades and maybe in comparison to some of the other jobs you've had, and maybe you're coming from different type of world, what do you feel like are some misconceptions about working in the trades and kind of specialty trades in specific?
Misconceptions about the trades, from misconceptions, I think, from just the general public, from business owners, like,
Yeah, yeah. Like someone who hasn't worked in the trades. I don't know if you had experience with the trades before in your other roles, but coming into this very specific pocket within, like I don't know if you had misconceptions or you see it now as an owner that other people kind of
um,
wouldn't
I mean,
understand.
I mean, I grew up blue collar,
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, a new tradesman. My dad was a, not a tradesman, but I mean, it was nothing about the blue collar trades has surprised me. But I would say that I think the point I felt like I needed to make more often than not in the early years was that, hey, manufacturing isn't something that just happens in China. It happens
Yeah.
here too,
Right.
by people that can make a living wage, benefits, vacation, 401k, health insurance, all that. And now I feel like that culture has changed a little bit, where obviously politically our leaders talk about, oh, we want more manufacturing in the US. So it's not as unheard of that, oh yeah, you guys are manufacturing in Texas. Of course you are, and so
Right.
I think that a lot of people didn't realize that things like this existed. And I think now that there's a little bit more focus on it, maybe at a state or national level. So that had been a misconception. I think maybe the biggest misconception is now is, can I do that and make money? And I mean, we start all our people at a living wage, and we work hard to improve our pay and benefits. We've had several big upgrades over the years in terms of what we're doing for people. We're just trying to, I mean, we're paying 80% of health insurance premiums for employees and dependents. We've got our 401k up to 4% now, a 4% match. So, I mean, we're actively investing in that. But I think people think, oh, you're gonna be poor if you work in the trades. I mean, no, not if you're good at it. You work
Yeah,
hard.
it's awesome. It's a good note to end on. If people want to get in contact with you, what's a good way to reach you?
Probably the best way is LinkedIn, because I used to give out my email and then I get so many junk emails
Yeah.
that I'm likely to miss it. But yeah,
Yeah.
Dan Verboski on LinkedIn. Connect with me on there, and uh, happy to help. I like to meet with people and talk with people. Some people have reached out from previous podcasts and want to talk about side businesses for sale. So I've talked a lot about side businesses for sale and what that process looks like. But yeah, if I can help anybody, I'm happy to respond.
Yeah, you got to get a Twitter handle. It's just the sign guy. I see that in your future.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to do more of the social media, so maybe it is.
All right. Dan Borowski, thanks for your time. Really
Hey, thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me, Brian. I think appreciate you.